This is where the fun begins.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sith Talk. Today we have on the channel JakeJames Lugo from the JakeJames Lugo channel. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing? How you holding up?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So just tell us a little bit about your channel, what your channel focuses on, and where we can find you at.
Well, I'm in a lot of places. So my main thing that I usually have done for a long time is YouTube, which is youtube.com/@JakeJamesLugo. That's where I upload new videos about video games, a lot of stuff regarding Star Wars and many other things related to it nearly every week, almost every day. I'm constantly putting up brand new, highly edited, highly produced video reviews about games, whether they're old games like retro stuff or newer releases. Like recently, I just did stuff for Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6. I've also done a lot of probably the one channel on YouTube that has done the most Star Wars games reviews, like highly produced Star Wars game reviews. So a lot of older stuff, a lot of newer stuff. But I'm also on TikTok literally every day, posting up videos about games, about Star Wars every single day, like multiple times a day. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Patreon. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads now because Threads is a new thing. I'm literally everywhere at JakeJames Lugo on every single place. So there's a lot of content and a lot of stuff that I do on top of my writing, on top of my other games media stuff. So I'm a busy bear all the time.
Gotcha. All right. So for you guys listening and watching, I'm going to put the link to his channel down in the description below. But no, yeah, that's awesome. So everyone that comes on, they get 3 questions. You ready?
Sure. Shoot them.
All right. So the first one is, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Hands down, I always go to Return of the Jedi. It was the first Star Wars movie that I watched, but also even as I've gotten older, I've grown even more appreciative of a lot of elements of it, even though I've seen all the movies, I've seen all the shows and everything else. But there's certain elements that I feel like are timeless about that movie, whether it's Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, his style, the whole conflict between him and Vader, the Emperor, you know, Jabba's palace, whatever have you. There's a lot of elements about that movie that even though they may not have originated in that movie, so at least a good chunk of them, because it's the third and the final entry of the original trilogy, it's still something that has resonated with me and I've stuck with. Again, I just not too long ago, I want to say about a year or so ago, I got my own replica Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi lightsaber. I have on my wall. You can't really see, you can like see the blade a little bit, but it's next to my Disney lightsaber, but you know, it's like trying to angle the camera. But you can see it right here, right there, next to my Disney lightsaber. And yeah, the only reason why I got that is because I love Return of the Jedi. I love that type of lightsaber.
No, that's awesome. I love Return of the Jedi too. I know a lot of people's first favorite is Empire, but out of the OG, I've always been like Return of the Jedi fan first over Empire. So that's a good choice for sure.
I honestly feel like now in more recent years, people say Empire because I think that's like the in thing to say, because a lot of people, especially a lot of critics, film critics or otherwise, they respect Empire as being the better quality film as far as like a film, like, you know, when you're talking about the artistic aspect of movies. But I think that a lot of people also, I think, rag on Return of the Jedi for a lot of trivial things, especially like stuff like the Ewoks and other things here and there that they kind of put Empire above it or other movies and stuff over it. But I just always felt like that was a fad to kind of like put that movie up there, other than the people that genuinely think that that's like the best Star Wars movie.
No, yeah, for sure. So the next one is, what's your favorite Star Wars show? Only one out of live action or animated. You could pick one.
Live action or animated? If I had to choose, the one I had the most fun with, because I watched it when it was airing, like start to finish, every single time they went on, was the Taranofsky Clone Wars show. Because even though I love Mandalorian, I love, you know, elements of Kenobi, you know, and other stuff from the live action, and even some of the Clone Wars and Rebels stuff and everything else.
Yeah.
But I always felt like the Taranofsky show specifically not only was done from someone that knows and has mastered animation, because that's the same guy that did Samurai Jack, which if you watch Samurai Jack, you know how awesome and quality that show is. To apply that to Star Wars and also kind of lead indirectly to Revenge of the Sith, because that came out around the time just before Revenge of the Sith. Like it was trying to tell the stuff in between the movies that we eventually got with the Clone Wars like animated show, like afterwards later, a little bit more proper and everything else in between the films of episode 2 and 3. But that one I always respected because it had a style to it. It had a vibe that wasn't really replicated later on in other Star Wars media.
No, for sure. No, that's a good choice. I am guilty of not finishing that one. I got to watch it that late.
It's on Disney Plus. No excuses now.
No, I know. And like the first bit of it I watched, I loved it like right away, like all of it. So That's definitely a good choice. I've had a few people pick that as their favorite, so it definitely holds its weight, like for sure.
Yeah, you can knock it out in like 2 hours because they're very short. Like because
Yeah,
they edited it to one movie, but like even season 1 and 2 is like a 2 hour movie. It's really dope.
but that must have sucked back then because there was like 3 minutes, so you would get 3 minutes one week
Yeah.
and then have to wait the next week just for
No,
another
it
three
was actually
minutes.
tomorrow. It was like every day. I
Oh,
think
every
if I
day.
remember
Okay.
correctly, because it was on Cartoon Network at one point, and they were doing it like every day. And I think at one point, like early on, maybe at the start of it, they were doing every week. Because I
Uh-huh.
remember like it wasn't that long of a wait in between episodes. But I do
Oh,
remember also
okay.
they played a lot of reruns too, so that could also be part of it. But it was still like it was an event when that was coming out. Like it was a really
Yeah.
big deal.
No, that's awesome. So the last one is, who is your favorite Star Wars character?
I'm always a Luke Skywalker guy. I've always gone to
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker again because of Return of the Jedi. In the years that I've gone older, I've respected other characters a little bit more than I did when I was first, like as a kid, as watching both the originals on VHS and also the prequels in theaters. Like I've
Hmm.
become a little bit more appreciative of Darth Vader and a lot of the other characters, but I've always been a Luke Skywalker guy. That's classic to me. That it's always been. I always think of him coming into Jabba's palace the first time you see him fighting
Yeah.
Vader on in the Emperor's throne room. Like
Yep.
that's the Luke Skywalker I knew and that I grew up with, and it's just always stuck with me.
So when you saw Luke in the sequels, how did that make you feel? With
I didn't
you
like
being a
it at
big,
all.
yeah.
I was like a lot of other. And the funny thing is that there's a lot of somewhat revisionist history about the Last Jedi.
Uh-huh.
Because everybody was hyped up at the end of Force Awakens when you see Luke finally,
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
all those years. And when you watch the Last Jedi, there was such a a cognitive dissonance between the two movies and the way
Hmm.
that things were just so inconsistent. And there's all the reasons people have like exhausted why that is.
Yeah.
But watching in the theater at the time, like the more I remember, because I went with my brother at the time, the more we talked about it on the car ride home, the less and less we liked it and the more angry we got because you start to really think about things on like how
Yeah.
stuff was handled, besides the spectacle of the visuals and everything that just was done with Luke as a character, knowing what we know, not just from Legends, because I think Legends, it's its own thing. Nobody, that doesn't
Yeah.
matter in the context of the movies, but from the movies themselves and the way that we were hoping for a fun ride, in the Star Wars universe, that was like really disheartening and that was really disappointing.
So how did you feel at the end of season 2 Mando when we got Luke?
I think everybody was excited, as they should have been, because I think I almost at the time, I want to say, because now that's been like over a year or 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's
At the
been a
time
while now.
after that aired on Disney Plus, after the episode went out, I was originally going to write an editorial about why that was so significant and why that's like a big beacon for Star Wars fans, is like things are going to get better. Time
Yeah.
it ended up not happening because I never ended up like writing that particular article for that
Hmm.
outlet at the time. But I always thought about it where it's like that was a moment for Star Wars fans that were so disheartened by the sequel trilogy on all the stuff that Disney had done up to that point, where it's like,
Yeah.
no, there's somebody over there that gets it. There's somebody over there that is listening to the masses of fans out there that are not on social media. And like the thing is that social media is a big thing with Star Wars fans and any nerd community, but like outside of like the noise of like the discourse about The Last Jedi, about the Rise of Skywalker and everything involving those sequel films, there was someone there that understood like, look, there's a big chunk of the audience that wants to see this type of Luke Skywalker,
Yep.
this type of stuff over here that seems a little more in line with lines up with both the original trilogy stuff and what fans have come to know the character for over many years.
No, exactly. I know when I saw that, I was so happy and satisfied. And like right away, I was like, that was the Luke in my mind that I expected to see in the sequels. Like, that's how I know Luke Skywalker is like that. And like, just like you said at the end of The Force Awakens, everybody was hyped because it was a semi decent start. It's been forever. We see Luke, but then it just all changed after that. But that was the Luke that I wanted in the sequel trilogy. Just an old man like that, just kicking ass.
Well,
But
the thing was, Luke should have been turned out like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because here's the
yeah.
thing, like there's a lot of people that look back on some of the older movies, especially the original trilogy, with different types of like tinted glasses, not necessarily rose tinted all the time. And
Hmm.
it felt like again the in thing for a very long time to really like harp on a lot of those movies, especially certain elements of them, for various different parts of entertainment and various different parts of social media, like where we ended up getting in the Kenobi series. I don't think a lot of people really expected to see something like that with a character
Yeah.
that we've seen older and younger over many years between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy.
Yep.
Like, obviously, we had in our minds like there was conflict. Like we have at least a certain aspect of what we believe those characters to be, but we could all in unison and in some way understand if when we feel like a character is being treated wrong. And like a lot of those legacy characters from the original trilogy were treated very wrong in ways that felt very like just so disconnected from what Star Wars was in essence, as opposed to what, a lot of people try to use the term fan service or fan service or just like, catering to fans and stuff. And I don't think that was always the case. I felt like, a lot of stuff that fans wanted to see, or at least were hoping to see, wasn't always like the rose tinted, always like the crazy good stuff. We just wanted stories that made sense within that universe and made sense with those character arcs.
No, exactly. You said it perfect there. All we want is stories that make sense. Like that is it. And like something so simple, you think they would understand and get, but yet we still barely get that to this day, man.
For Star Wars fans, I feel like we're very like sticklers for details, especially when it comes to the lore. I mean, you could say that about any nerd community, any geek community. That's originally for a lot of people started with Star Trek in like the 60s, the 70s, like that, and then Star Wars at its own thing. But when it comes to details about lore, about continuity, about legacy and stuff, I feel like more often than not, the people that are fans of the medium are really the ones that really truly understand it more sometimes than the creators, because I feel like it's the creator's job to give us stories that could kind of continue that lore, continue those stories stuff, but also to really take in not just stuff that's happened beforehand, but stuff at least in the zeitgeist and the mindset of now, to listen. Like obviously it's not always good to listen to everything and take everything into account. You're going to drive yourself mad doing stuff like that. But what I felt was really detrimental to the era of Star Wars that we're in now, especially post Disney buyout and post sequel trilogy movies, was that there's always this like contentious relationship between the creators of those films as in conjunction to like the fans that were following it. There was always like this clash that just didn't need to be there. That was even with the stuff with like the Phantom Menace and like the Attack of the Clones and even Revenge of the Sith, that was never really there when George was still heading up stuff and actually doing things. Like people had their problems, people had their criticisms, but you're not going to see George sitting there with a cup that says Luke fanboy tears. Like I don't think that was ever a thing like that, or just arguing with fans on social media. It's like, come on. Like I felt that got in the way of telling good stories and also got in the way of the brand just reaching out to more and more people.
No, 100%, 100%. So I know you're really, really big on video games. So I'm guessing you pretty much have every console like Switch, PS5, Xbox.
Just about now. Like I don't own every console that's been released, but I mean I have all the current gen. I've had legacy stuff. I'm originally a Sega Genesis guy. My first console was the Sega Genesis. I was born as a Sega kid. My birthday, believe it or not, I always tell everybody this and they don't believe me, but like my birthday is right around the same time frame that the Mega Drive was released in Japan, and 89 is when we got the Genesis here in the States. So I'm literally a born Sega kid, which is pretty and Sonic was my first video game ever, which is even crazier.
Sonic is classic. I'm a born Nintendo guy. Like I've had every Nintendo console, but I had Sega back in the day, and playing Sonic was just so much fun. And then I think, wasn't there a game on Sega called Kid Chameleon?
Genesis. I think there was one on the Master System, I believe, and also one on the Genesis. I know because I know that game's been ported to many different spots over the years. But like Kid Chameleon is a Sega classic.
So what console is your favorite for Star Wars games?
For Star Wars games, now here's the funny thing about this is because there's different eras of Star Wars games that have monumental big classes. I've written about, or at least I've talked about most, if not almost every major Star Wars games that's been released to date so far. And in a couple different ways, like in podcasts, writing about it, videos, etc. So not just one form, but there's a lot out there. There's good and very bad. Trust me, there's a big spectrum of this stuff. But for me, if I had to choose like one era, like console generation, that was like the best Star Wars games that we were all playing, was definitely that PS2 original Xbox era. And you could also throw in GameCube era into there as well. So around that time frame. So I think that was like 6th or 7th gen consoles. I could be wrong in the actual time, but basically PS2, original Xbox, and GameCube, because look at the classics that we got out of this thing when it comes to Star Wars games, not classic games entirely. You got Revenge of the Sith, the game. You got Battlefront 1 and 2. The Jedi Knight series, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Academy. You got Rogue Squad. Well, this was right after Rogue Squadron, but you also got Rogue Leader and Rebel Strike, like that. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, you could throw in games like Bounty Hunter. You could throw in games like Episode 1 Racer, which I still think is overrated for some people, but I understand the charm of it, because that's like one of its own kind, and then Racer Revenge, and then Super Combat Racing. The point is, there was a lot of diversity of Star Wars games within that era, because prior to it, we only had so much. We had the Super Star Wars series of games. We had the Atari 2600 games.
Yeah.
We had the arcade games. We had Shadows of the Empire and Rogue Squadron, which are two of my favorites, hands down, because Shadows of the Empire is my first N64 game. And then afterwards, we start getting more into the modern era. So you get your Force Unleashed, you get your Battlefront remake stuff. You get a lot of other things up till now. But I feel like it wasn't really truly that sweet spot like it was in that era specifically, where it was just a vibe for Star Wars games.
What's your favorite #1 Star Wars game out of all Star Wars games?
Probably Battlefront 2 or KOTOR, to be honest with you. Like, because I could always go back to those games, especially Battlefront 2 2005 specifically, because the remake of Battlefront 2, it's its own type of thing. I know a lot of people compare it, and I've talked about it many a times, but it's two different eras and two different types of approaches to the same idea and the same concept. The thing is, the 2005 Battlefront game, I felt like, is more what people loved about Battlefront as a series, because you had multiple eras, you had multiple upgrades from the original Battlefront. You had the campaign, which was about the 501st Legion, which is an awesome story, even though it's not really canon technically. You know, it's the stuff now, as opposed to what we got in the newer Battlefront 2, which was an original story set in a different time frame, post Return of the Jedi, basically, because it's like right after the Battle of Endor. So very different approaches, but I feel like Battlefront 2 is probably the game I would go with, if not KOTOR, which to me, I still think as a hard argument is one of the best Star Wars games ever made as an RPG too.
Yeah, I'm actually playing through that right now, so I'm having fun. Yeah, I can't wait, because aren't they supposed to like remake it, but it got pushed back? Like with
no, so here's the problem with this. Originally, we got the announcement that Knights of the Old Republic remake was happening, which was being done originally by Aspire Media. Spire, for anybody that doesn't know, is the group that did all the re-releases. So they did Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Academy. They did Republic Commando. They did episode 1 Racer, which they just called Star Wars Racer. After that, they got rid of the episode 1 thing. They did all the re-releases on Switch, PSN, and Xbox Live. So all the games that you've seen now that you're able to play now, including Bounty Hunter, I believe also they did. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they did it too. The problem was, though, they were working on this game. We got a teaser for it. There was some stuff that happened behind the scenes where they showed what's called a vertical slice, or a demo, or like a concept phase of what that game is going to be, including the battle system, how it's going to look, etc. It pissed off PlayStation. It pissed off Sony, because they were not happy with it. And also, I think Lucasfilm Games was happy with it, but Sony was very not happy. It ended up happening where multiple people that were on that project, and also multiple high-end people at Aspire Media, ended up getting let go or fired. And the entire thing was thrown into disarray. So not only did that happen, we also got the DLC for KOTOR 2 on Switch. The extra DLC that they were going to add from the PC version? Totally canceled. Not happening. Completely canceled. And from what's been like said and reported in multiple spots, Saber Interactive is the new team that Embracer Group actually assigned to continue work or to start doing the KOTOR remake. But it's been unconfirmed. They haven't really said much about the game. It's said that some people have said it's still in development, but it looks like it's going to be a while before we see it, if at all. You know, because things just happen behind the scenes, and we don't even have a clear like understanding of like why they happens like that.
Yeah, it sucks when stuff like that happens. Just like that Eclipse game where we got that trailer, it looked amazing, but then all of a sudden, supposedly a lot of stuff happened behind the scenes, and it was shelved.
Well, that's still on, believe it or not. So recently, I reported about this about a couple weeks ago, where Quantic Dream is the company that's making it. They're the publisher, they're the developer, and they just continued to work, like doing like the mocap and other stuff, you know, for the game that's related to it. And the reason why it took them so long is because they were having trouble hiring people, like getting people to come work for them, because of what was going on behind the scenes, the lawsuit that they were dealing with. There was a whole bunch of speculation about a toxic work environment and all these other things in Europe, in France, I believe it was. And that report that came out that said that they were getting back on track came from a French news station, where they actually went to Quantic Dream and showed them there working with the mocap station and showing all stuff they were doing on the computer. They didn't show the game, but they did talk with them straight in French and discuss like, yeah, we're back on to working about this. So that's going to be a while too. That you're probably not getting to 2025 or 2026 for a long time.
Which sucks, but it looks just so dope. Everything in the trailer, like even though it was all cinematic, it just like the time period and just all the stuff with the Jedi.
If you know anything about Quantic Dream, you got a lot of stuff to look forward to. Like if you've played Beyond Two Souls, if you played Detroit Become Human, fun fact, I helped write the guide for Detroit Become Human on IGN. So if you know anything about their games, we're gonna expect something really good, especially when it comes to story, when it comes to branching narratives. They say for Eclipse, for Star Wars Eclipse, it might be a little bit more action oriented than what they're used to doing, which could also be part of the element that's holding them up. But when it comes to story, I feel like this is what's going to be the story that kind of gets me a little bit more interested in the High Republic than what I've been beforehand.
No, for sure. So what did you think of like the new Jedi Survivor game that just came out?
I reviewed it. I did multiple reviews. I did a written review and I did a video review on my YouTube channel on top of other content. And I liked it. It's one of my favorite games this year. It has its issues. It had its issues at launch, that I've talked about many times. But I think that it was great. I think it was an awesome sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. I really did Cal Kestis. A lot of people do as well. His story has really progressed in a way that's not only been interesting, it's been clever. It's respected canon and lore for many different things. I did criticize the game, though, and I think it was fair to do so, that the game really tries to get you to relate or like the High Republic, but it does so in a way where you don't feel like you have enough information from stuff that happened in the past that's related to what's going on in that game. Like, if you didn't read any of the High Republic books or the comic books or know anything about the High Republic, you'd be totally disconnected from it. What I did say, though, is that if it was, instead of the High Republic, the Old Republic stuff, it would have hit a little bit different for people. But the only reason why they didn't do it, and I never asked it because I've known some people that have worked on the game in the past, that they've gone on to other projects, and I never got to ask them. But I really do believe is that because the High Republic is a little bit more closer to the time frame that Cal Kestis is alive, which is post Order 66, it made more sense to have it set from or at least those structures from that era, because they would be around for longer, as opposed to 4,000 years in the past, if not longer. That things might degrade or be completely shut down by then. It's a little bit more harder to argue that, that they would still be relevant and around by that time frame.
No, for sure. I enjoyed it a lot. I just thought it was kind of short because, like, the planets, I wish there was just more planets. I felt like it was just kind of quick getting through the game, man.
Really?
The first time. Yeah.
I think it's like 20 something hours. I think I spent on it on the main. I'm talking about main stories of like no side content, none of that stuff. So I think it's like over 20 hours I spent. I do agree, though, it would have been nice to go to other planets, because you don't go to Tatooine. You go to Coruscant, which is a big deal. You go to Kobo. You go to the asteroid, and then you go to the other planet that they end up discovering later on. I wish you got to do more in that planet towards like the end game. It would have been nicer, like having more activities in some of the places. Oh, and Jeddah. Jeddah is the other big one, which it's more connected to some of the newer stuff. But it made sense to start including more planets that are within that time frame of the universe and stuff. But it would have been cool to at least see more places we could go visit, especially big places like Tatooine, maybe Yavin. Granted, whatever's going on, it would have been cool.
I even would have liked to have gone back to Kashyyyk or Dathomir again.
Naboo would have been nice, or Dathomir. Dathomir would have been sweet. It would have made sense because of Marin, because of the Night Sisters and stuff.
Exactly.
What happened post Fallen Order. But who knows? They're already, because funny enough, today that we're recording this, it came out that they're already working on the third game.
They're hiring for.
Well, they put up the LinkedIn job postings for it, but I'm pretty sure they've been doing that for a while. Like they've been cooking for a minute.
No, they're gonna complete the story. I'm excited for the next one for sure. This one, the minute it came out, I'd live streamed it right away. So I think it took me like 24 hours to beat the game in live streams. It was like 12 live streams in a row. But it was a lot of fun. I love the whole Cal and Marin dynamic. And as soon as it finished, it's like, I need them to have a show or a movie. I would love to watch them together, or for them to have like two kids, little force sensitive Jedi.
Yeah, they were cute together. When they had their moments and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, okay. They know what they're doing. We want to see this. Yeah. And the way they do it, I thought was tasteful, and it made sense, and it was cute. It wasn't forced. It wasn't like fan fiction-y. It wasn't mediocre or anything of the sort. It was nice. It was a nice way to do it.
Yep, exactly. So continuing with gaming, what did you think about the trailer for that new Outlaws game that's coming out next year, 2024?
They're saying next year. They haven't given a firm like release date, but they've given a time frame, which is 2024. So we might see this, if not spring, we might see this towards Q4 of 2024. I think we're going to see the game again come the Game Awards. I feel like we're going to see more of it around then. But I did a whole breakdown of the trailer with was it Rule the Galaxy podcast. They had me as a guest to talk about everything that we saw, because I not only looked at the cinematic trailer and the gameplay trailer, but I also went through the developer commentary where they talked about more stuff and they revealed more things you just didn't get from just seeing the trailer. So we talked about gameplay elements, you know, with the firefights, the exploration. They talked about planets, where you're going to be going. They talked about elements with what is it, the little creature that the girl has. Like I think I forgot her name. I think her name is Kay. I can't remember the top of my head.
I forgot her name already.
Her little creature friend is going to be part of like different gameplay elements when she's roaming around or sneaking in combat. So he's very versatile, which is cool. But what I like, and what I made a big point to talk about, that a lot of people didn't give enough credit to, because we've been asking for this for years. Seamless transition from planetary movement to space. All
That's
seamless.
Crazy.
No loading. Well, I'm pretty sure there's loading, but like, you know, there's no like cuts. There isn't no stops. It feels seamless. And I love that. This is what we've been asking for, what we were hoping for since the canceled Battlefront 3, which is like a big deal for people like me that have been playing games related to Star Wars for years. So seeing that in practice, you know, and again, that's all real gameplay, you know, that's awesome. And we got a whole section of this era of the galaxy, you know, what is it? It's between Empire and Jedi, because we see Han Solo and Carbonite, and they said it in the developer commentary. This is exactly what's going on, what time frame this is, what's happening between the rebellion and the Empire. While all that is going on, you're over here dealing with all the crime syndicates and all this other stuff in the underworlds. So that opens up a whole plethora of possibilities. I mean, we got the Hutts, we got the Pikes, we got hopefully Crimson Dawn, hopefully fingers crossed, we get some Shadows of the Empire stuff with Black Sun. Oh my God, like there's so much stuff that I would hope that they get to tackle in this game. If not, DLC. Like, let's go. Like, I'm ready for it. So a lot of exciting stuff.
No, for sure. They I think it was yesterday I saw I think they confirmed D. Bradley Baker is going to be voicing Jabba in the game, which I thought was cool. That's dope. So there must be at least some storylines with Jabba in there that's worth it if they're getting him to voice him.
Side quest with Jabba, I'm in.
That
also confirms to me we're going to Tatooine, because I'm pretty sure we all saw Tatooine in like that game.
Oh yeah.
I firmly believe we're going to be going to Naboo, because at least some of those places look straight up like Naboo. I firmly believe that we're going to go to Coruscant on top of all the other planets and the planet they showed there. I think we're going to a number of planets, and I think they're hiding some big surprises, because it would be awesome to go visit some of these legacy planets in this game and be able to roam in some of these cities. That'd be great.
During this time period too, would be insane.
Imagine prequel planets like Naboo, like Coruscant, like any of these other planets, maybe Mustafar and for some reason, but during the time of Empire and Jedi. Like, how awesome would that be?
It'd be mind-blowing. Hopefully we get it. I loved in the trailer how you mentioned how when she got in her ship, you see her going into the atmosphere, and then she's in space, and all of a sudden it's a big
space combat. Yep.
Yeah,
it's great. This is what we've wanted.
That is awesome,
and it looks dope. It looks really cool.
But how do you feel about it being, you know, potentially like open world, but you only be that one character and you're that person the whole time? You can't pick, customize. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, here's the problem with this, and I talked about this on Twitter. I talked about this with Rule the Galaxy, and I've talked about it with a couple other people. You know, unfortunately, there's pockets of people within the Star Wars community that seem to either be a little bit entitled, or at least to get caught up on what they want on their own stuff, as opposed to what we're getting, what's being made. This game was never promoted or never said to be a game where you're creating your own character. It wasn't a customizable experience like that. This is an experience and a story that you're playing through, very similar to Jedi Fallen Order and very similar to Jedi Survivor. It's the exact same thing, only it's Kay that you're playing as. It's her story while going through this world. It's almost the exact same thing as Jedi Survivor, where Cal gets to roam around and do things, but you're playing as Cal Kestis. You know, which is a stupid, it's a non-starter argument with some people, and I don't understand where that rumor kind of like got like caught fire, where somebody said that. I think it was a bunch of discussion that turned into wishful thinking that people just got too caught up on. But also, I think that also comes from the fact that people know that we're getting Knights of the Old Republic remake and stuff, and they want another game that's a little bit more customizable, a little bit more personal, in the same way that Battlefront was, in the same way that KOTOR was, or whatever some of the other, like, you know, the Old Republic was in some ways like that. And I get it. I understand it. I think we're going to get a game like that sometime soon. Because remember, this isn't the only Star Wars game that's being made. We still got Respawn's 2 other games on top of other stuff that's down the line, including the FPS game, which is going to be like the Jedi Knight series. And we're getting an RTS by Respawn. So these are the same people that created Titanfall. that. So you can only imagine how
Yeah,
dope that FPS is going to be. But also the RTS stuff sounds like it's going to be interesting. It's going to be different that we haven't seen in a long time since Empire at War. The point is, though, is that we're getting various different experiences, and we can't be so down and upset about one experience not fitting what we want it to be when we should know that, look, we're going to have a plethora of stuff to play. There's going to be a lot of variety. There's going to be a lot of diversity of experiences. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they're in the same type of like echelon of quality that Jedi Survivor was.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully it's that same quality, and it'd be nice if we got one every year. Like, just keep it coming. Like, we'll buy it. We're ready to play. Like, just give us a good, consistent game
I'm good.
each
Honestly,
year.
I'm good waiting a little bit longer because keep in mind, like we've had plenty of examples of various games and stuff that they were annual releases and they just weren't up to the same level of quality as their previous
That's
iterations.
that's
But
true.
the benefit of this with Star Wars is that as opposed to one company, which was EA that had the exclusivity for such a long time, now we have multiple companies making multiple games. Because
Yeah,
keep in mind, that's not the only other Star Wars games we got coming out too. We got Hunters, which is still, to me, Hunters looks terrible, but I understand like why they're making that type of game. But
yeah,
we're getting all these different types of genres, of approaches to game design and stories set within the Star Wars galaxy. So we're gonna be able to pick and choose as opposed from 1 to 2 games every like 5-6 years. Because
no,
with
exactly.
EA we had multiple games, and Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor are the best of the bunch, even
No,
arguably better than Battlefront 2.
yeah, no, for sure. You're right with taking your time. Like when Nintendo just did with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, how they took their time for that game. Have you played that game?
Not yet. And the only reason why I haven't played it yet is because there were so many other releases coming out. Because I went from Jedi Survivor to Street Fighter 6 to Final Fantasy 16. And I skipped over Tears of the Kingdom. I skipped over Diablo 4. I
Yeah,
skipped Dead Space Remake. Like this year has been pretty packed when it came to
yeah.
different releases. So yeah, I gotta pick and choose which ones I gotta have enough time for.
Did you like and enjoy Breath of the Wild?
No. And the reason being is because
Wow.
I feel like that game, and look, I'm a big Zelda fan. I've reviewed multiple Zelda games on my
Yeah,
channel, like older Zelda games. I love Ocarina of Time. I love
yeah.
Wind Waker. I love Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, etc.
Hmm.
The thing is that that's a very different approach to a Zelda game. And when I first played Breath of the Wilds, it didn't connect with me at all. I felt the same
Really?
way when I played the original Mass Effect the first time. When I played
Uh-huh.
Mass Effect the first time, I didn't like it. But later on, I went back and I played through the entire trilogy. And I love
Yeah.
Mass Effect after that. So I felt like Breath of the Wild is a very similar game. And I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is probably going to be the same thing for me because when I first saw Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, oh, it's more Breath of the Wild. Like, and I get it. That's what
Yeah.
people want. That's what's working and stuff. But for me individually, me personally, is like there were other games that I wanted to play at the time. Like I'm not going to skip Street Fighter 6. I'm not going to skip Final Fantasy 16. I'm not going
Gotcha.
to
Yeah,
skip
yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Like there's just so many that was one after the other. And I feel like now this year more than ever, a lot of people have had to pick and choose between different games to go with because there's never enough time to get to everything.
No, no, you're 100% right for sure. So the first article we're gonna take a look at, because if I don't bring these up, we'll just be talking about video games all day, which is cool. But
I
is
love
this
games.
one? Oh yeah, and this one kind of relates to games too, because I think she might be popping up in a game. So they interviewed Amelia Clark recently because she's on Secret Invasion. So they
Yeah.
were asking her, did you see that interview where they asked her if she would want to revisit her Star Wars character?
I heard about it. I didn't watch the exact interview. Like, I don't know if there's a video of it and stuff, but I did hear about it from various people. Like, I saw John Campea talk about it and a few
Yeah,
others talk about it. Personally, for me, I think this is part nonsense because there's a
yeah,
couple things with it. Number one, if she was really in a project where she couldn't, like, where she's going to be like her character again, she would be under NDA out the wazoo and she'd probably
yep.
be answering questions and answering things a little bit differently. Because
Hmm.
there's always that certain type of answer you could tell that's like a PR answer or like a steering away type of answer when
Yeah,
people can't say when they legitimately can't say anything for a while. And I get that stars lie, I get like all this stuff, but I think also sometimes with a lot of the reports from different media outlets and different journalists, they sometimes get a little bit too caught up on stuff that they probably shouldn't get caught up on, or probably
hmm
look too far deep into things that aren't actually as deep as they probably are. So for me, this is a wait and see because I don't think she was bad in Solo. I didn't like Solo personally, but
hmm
I can't blame that on Amelia Clark. I feel like she's a great actress. She does a lot
she
of good stuff
is.
with a lot of projects, and I think that with better material, the Kira character could be much more beloved than what it is
Oh
right
yeah,
now for me.
no, for sure. I saw the interview and it didn't really look like much. I mean, the only thing I could think is if she was caught off guard and if she is working on something, is if she's voicing Kira, like if she were to pop up in Outlaws, because that character in Outlaws kind of reminds me of like a Kira type person. So it wouldn't surprise me if that girl was doing a mission and ran into Crimson Dawn and maybe ran into Kira or something like that in the game. So potentially she could be voicing the character in the game for a cameo, maybe.
I don't know. Like, and the thing is that timeline wise, it might make a little bit of sense. She'd be much older,
She'd be
obviously.
old, yeah.
I mean, she'd
Yep.
be like Han Solo's age, like how he is in that point of the saga. But
Yep.
I also think like what would be her relevance? Because by this time frame, keep in mind, Darth Maul is dead, you know,
I
from Rebels.
know.
He's
Mhm.
done. Crimson Dawn, for all we know, we don't hear much about them from even like Rebels, even in Mandalorian or nothing. And that could be by design because of the response to Solo, not necessarily within universe. Because remember, a lot of people like the response to Solo was really the fallout from The Last Jedi and the way
Yep.
that things were handled. And I think that Amelia and a lot of the actors in there got the brunt of it from fans, unjustifiably so, when it really
Mhm.
wasn't their fault. You know, the reactions and stuff. But I would be fine with her reprising her role in a time frame in a place where it made sense. And I don't know how they can make that make sense within her, within what's going on with Crimson Dawn. Because if Crimson Dawn really was a thing post Solo, like going into the original trilogy and into where the Mando timeline is, you know,
Yeah.
there's got to be a reason why nobody heard from them or nobody even like cared to talk about them for a long time. And I think that's very difficult to come up with as opposed to maybe repurposing the character for something else.
Yeah, I think the only thing way you could bring it back that would make sense is if they did that Solo show or that Lando TV show that was rumored
Yeah,
that
that
was
like
going to come out.
disappeared.
Yeah, that disappeared because like the minute they said that, oh, we're doing a Lando show, my mind went right away. Kira with Darth Maul and Crimson Dawn right after
Yeah,
Solo,
exactly. That it makes the
which I
most
would
sense.
love. Yeah. So unless they bring that back, I don't really see much of her. But I mean, I
I think
guess
it's a nothing
we'll see.
burger, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's wait and see because there's been interviews, especially lately over the last year for various projects, not just Star Wars, that people have taken wildly out of context
Oh
and they
yeah,
ended up being nothing burgers.
all the time, all the time. So there's a bunch of Lego sets that are supposed to
Yeah.
be coming out this year. Are you into Legos?
I did a whole bunch of stuff with Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga that I actually saw that since
Oh,
it first was revealed at E3. You know, when I actually got to see it played for the first time and stuff, because that
yeah,
game was very different. But I love Lego Star Wars. Lego Star Wars is I have both now because for my collection, I just bought the two Lego Star Wars games on PS2 for my
yeah,
collection just to have them. And I love Lego Star Wars. It's dope.
yeah. Lego Star Wars is fun. Now, what about actual Legos, like the set
Now
collectible?
my brother, he won the Death Star set, the big one from IGN in a contest, and he has it.
Oh
Okay.
shit!
And I've gotten other Lego sets here and there and stuff. I actually got the pre-order, obviously, for like Skywalker Saga, where you get the X-Wing, whatnot.
Yeah,
And there's been other stuff that I bought. I bought helmets for like my
yeah.
siblings and like other family members stuff.
Mhm.
So I bought sets here and there. I don't collect them because that takes up a lot of space,
It
but I
does,
respect
man.
it. I respect it because
Yeah,
it looks dope.
yeah. It does. It takes up a lot of space. Some of them get pricey, and then just the
Yeah, big
time,
time.
bro. I don't have the patience for it.
If I had the space and a little bit of extra money to burn, I would get a couple sets. Like I would get Slave One, I would get an X-wing.
Mm,
I would probably get something like maybe not the Star Destroyer, but I would get like some of the ships, if not a play
mm.
set, maybe either of Hoth or of Endor or Yavin or something.
Yeah.
But because some of them look really cool.
No, they do. And some of the ones we're gonna look at right now, there's like two sets in here I'm 100% buying. And I'm not like a big Lego guy. I have a few, but
Mm.
the two in here I have to get because I love these ships. So the first one, they're doing a holiday special diorama, I
Okay,
guess,
that's
this
cute.
year. So I mean that's cool, like for the holiday stuff like that. There's no
Yeah,
picture of it yet, but it's gonna come out probably around the holidays this year.
yeah,
This next one is
yeah. That's dope.
I'm a sucker. So they don't have a picture of it, but they are releasing another gunship because the only one that's out now is the USC or UCS, whatever it's called, and it's
Mhm.
like 400, right? Which is kind of pricey and it's giant. This is scaled a little bit smaller and it's going to
Mm.
be around 139.
Okay,
So
makes
I'm a
sense.
yeah, I'm a huge gunship guy. I
Did you get
have
the Walker for the Republic Commandos?
oh no, but that thing
They
is
they
sick,
have that.
man.
I've seen it at Walmart. It actually looks really cool.
Yeah, that thing is sick. So this definitely gonna grab whenever they drop it. Now this
The
one,
Ghost, that makes sense for Rebels because
I
all the
dropped.
Ahsoka stuff is
Yep,
happening.
yep. I dropped a video today about this. So this drops September 1st. It's confirmed. This article we're looking at is older. but like it's officially revealed. The ghost looks so cool with the little Chopper, Hera, Jason Syndulla minifigs, plus a
Does it
few
come with
more.
Ezra or no?
No, it comes with 2 other new characters that are in the Ahsoka show, and
Okay.
Hera, Jason Syndulla, and Chopper.
I will
And
not be surprised if we see another set that includes Ezra somehow, like after the show
of
comes out.
course, yeah, they're gonna milk that. There's gonna be sets with Ezra, with Sabine, with Zeb. They're gonna milk that like crazy.
Yeah.
But this comes with the Phantom as well too. So
Okay,
it's
cool.
the Ghost and the Phantom like connects right into it, which is really cool. So that's another one I'll be picking up for sure. This one's kind of dope. Ahsoka's
ship.
T6
Yeah, that makes sense.
shuttle. Yeah, so that one is gonna look sick when it drops. And then just some more Ahsoka series.
Yeah, that,
so
again,
like you just
the
mentioned,
series is coming out soon.
Yep. So like you just mentioned some of those, and then
yeah, I heard about
big UCS Venator Star Destroyer.
Yes,
so
that's a good set for a lot of people that love those big sets. That's gonna be dope.
Yep, it's gonna be $650 retail, 5,000.
That's a lot, but
pieces.
if you collect that stuff, like, because if you're collecting those big sets and you're getting like the Star Destroyers or the Executor or the Death Star set, you're already paying big bucks for those sets like that. You're probably getting the Falcon, which is also another one. Like
it's like 800. Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah. So, and then I think this last one they're just doing like a Chewbacca, similar to like yeah, something like that. So they're doing a Chewie. So I saw this. I thought it was pretty cool. But what sold me is just, man, that ghost and the gunship. I'm a sucker.
I think the ghost I think is probably going to be really popular because again, with that show with Ahsoka and people that love Rebels like that, that's gonna get a lot of people's attention.
And the timing, they actually are dropping it at a time that's relevant because lately, with everything that's been coming out, all the merch has been dropping 6 months to a year after the show. And it's like the hype is done.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
No, this drops literally the week after Ahsoka. So people are going to see Ahsoka the next week. Oh, that's the ship they were in. Boom, done.
You can only imagine the other toys like Black Series and all that stuff that's going to be on top of that. It's going to be incredible.
I'm looking forward to seeing a hot toy version of Chopper. I'm going to get that so quick.
If we need a Chopper droid, kind of like what we get at Galaxy's Edge, but like sold at like Toys R Us or Walmart, but like a big one. There you go.
Yeah, I know. So I'm hyped for all the Chopper stuff, man. Super hyped. So I think it was last weekend or the weekend before that. They were supposed to drop some Ahsoka footage, and it got delayed because of Twitter issues. So it was supposed to be like a first look at Ahsoka and maybe even a final trailer, and it didn't drop. It actually dropped today at noon. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, I didn't get to see. I didn't know about this. I didn't. Maybe because again with the delay with everything, like I would have seen it because the only thing I only saw like other stuff related to Star Wars getting passed around, but I didn't see anything about new footage. Like if it hasn't dropped yet, it'll probably drop like super soon.
Yeah. So what dropped today? So it was nothing. It was kind of like a behind the scenes, like Rosario talking about her getting the position, her becoming Ahsoka, them showing stuff behind the scenes, but there was no new footage and it wasn't
like
a
scenes,
trailer.
like like actual stuff from the episodes.
No, it was nothing like that. It was just them talking about it behind the scenes, like Dave's writing this character, this, that. So that was cool in that sense, but a lot of people went in with the expectation of we're gonna get new footage or part of this will be a trailer, and it wasn't that at all.
So wait a second. My question is that when they first said that, or at least when that thing first started up, did them like the official Star Wars account say like that was going to be the case? Okay, so it's just everybody
just assumed it.
Rolled with that. So that's their fault.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and I was part of that too because I seen everyone talking. I'm like, oh, okay,
because the show's out in like a month. It's like really close, like super soon.
It's a month and a week and a half, something like that. It's very, very close. So when you watch it though, go slow motion from 26 to 27 seconds because I'm in the trailer.
Nice.
Which is crazy because they showed footage from Celebration and you'll see this guy yelling and wearing like a Darth Vader t-shirt with a lightsaber. I'm literally right behind him to the right, and you can see me holding my phone up. Yeah, so that was cool. But other than that, it wasn't really a whole lot. So we're just still waiting for that final trailer, man.
Yeah,
still waiting. Now, speaking of Ahsoka, because I think the next couple ones are basically more Ahsoka stuff. How are you looking forward to and excited for this Ahsoka show? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, this is going to be better than Mando season 3 and better
Oh
than
yeah.
Book of Boba Fett. I think
Oh yeah.
that I think a lot of people, myself included, were very disappointed by those series, and also Kenobi. You got to throw Kenobi in there too.
Yeah.
That was such a layup that should have not been an L. Like
Yo,
that is the
yes.
I talked
Layup.
about this with so many people, and it's like, look, you cannot you can if I swear to God, if there's any revisionist history about the hype with Kenobi, like everybody was ready for that show because it's like
Yeah.
you got Hayden and Erwin. How are you not going to mess this up, bro? Like
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
point is though, is that after those disappointments, I feel like this is going to be a W because this is Dave Filoni's baby. This is his character. This is like, and his characters technically, because I think Rosario said it or somebody else said it. This is basically like another season of Rebels. You know, these are all the same characters. Like, you know, at this point. So how if he's been doing that show for the longest time, and he's the one that's really hands on with Ahsoka. There's no way that Homeboy can mess this up. If he messes this up, it's over. That's it. We're done. Lucasfilm, we walk out. Like because like at this point, like it can't get any worse. You know, at this point for some people. But I'm really thinking that this is going to be a W. I think this is going to be fun from that trailer that they showed at Celebration and all that stuff. It looks really good.
So, yeah, like you said, if this fails, like, bro, everybody's checked out. But, like, I have faith it'll be good. He wrote all 8 episodes, so at least you know you have the same consistent story. Yeah. Because Mando season 3, bro, that was all over the place. Like,
big time.
I felt like, bro, there's no way Jon Favreau did this. There's no
way. I don't think so. I think there's more to that story than what they've been allowed to say. And I think that a lot of it was a lot of behind the stuff that was probably outside of like the actual show itself that probably really affected it because you could tell a lot of stuff. Even with Book of Boba Fett, you could tell that something was up.
Yeah, especially in Book of Boba Fett because the 2 best episodes were the Mando episodes. And like, why weren't those episodes like the first?
Apparently, those were supposed to be on season 3. That was supposed to be the beginning of season 3, which you know totally makes sense now.
It does. Context. Yeah, so it's crazy, man. But this article here, so I guess they were interviewing the actress that plays Sabine, and she said that I think it's hard not to feel part of something bigger. Ahsoka runs along the same timeline as Mando season 3, and the shows are all connected. So there's just so many parallels.
Was that said during an interview where she was officially being interviewed about Ahsoka?
I believe. Oh, where was it? I believe so. It was like an official interview.
Okay, because like that's something that I feel like if Disney didn't already
Games Radar.
Okay, Games Radar. Okay, so yeah, it was an official thing. The reason why I asked that is because if it was something like that, then she got the okay to say something like that. Because that's something like Lucasfilm would be hands-on to like, you know, reveal that themselves or like in a StarWars.com post or something.
No, for sure. So I thought that was interesting, like seeing that. What I think we'll see for sure is maybe we'll see it pick up like one of the episodes where Zeb is leaving like that bar with all the pilots and maybe going to meet up with them because it's at the same time. So I mean, they better not have just did Zeb for that, and we don't see him in Ahsoka because that just would make no sense.
Yeah, that would. I doubt they're not gonna leave him out there like that because there's a reason why they were teasing him. It was to tease for this show. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I was at ICC Con last month, and the Rebels cast was there, and they asked Zeb while he was on stage, Steve Bloom. They asked him, "Are we going to see you in Ahsoka?" And right away, he couldn't say nothing. You could tell like that NDA was it kicked in right away. So yeah, for sure. I'm super excited to see more of Zeb and just the rest of the Rebels. But
you know something? I think that to me, like imagine because it is Ahsoka's show. So like I feel like this show is probably gonna pick up right after the last time we see her at that episode where we see her with Luke and Mando. Like I feel like it's probably gonna pick up probably right after there. At least that would make the most sense to me, if not like a short period of time right after that interaction.
Yeah, no, for sure. So this also released recently. They dropped some HD pictures of the Rebels mural. So I was lucky enough they had this in London at Star Wars Celebration.
You saw that?
Yeah, so bro, I walk by it every day, and like I just thought it would just look good, or maybe like somebody made it. I didn't realize until after that it was the actual one from the show. So I saw it every day, and I'm like, that thing's so awesome. And then all the Rebels cosplay were always over there taking pictures. But like, it didn't occur to me that this is the actual one from the show. Like,
that's right really here. Cool.
Yeah. So I saw it every freaking day. But they released like some HD pictures with Sabine on it. So it's almost like that's the exact scene from Rebels, like
Hmm.
animated in live action, which is crazy.
Which is what people have wanted. Like, I think that,
Yeah.
people really love Rebels. Like, it has its issues, just like Clone Wars has its issues here and there. But for the most part, that is the Star Wars stories that people have really connected with within the Disney era, besides Mando, or at least the beginning of that show. It's this like grouping of characters and these like stories that people have really resonated with the most. And it'd
Yep.
be awesome to see every one of those characters, with maybe the exception of like Kanan, or like that, just in some ways, like actually rendered in live action, because it looks like this. It looks one for one, like, like pulled straight out of like Rebels in some way, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man, it's I cannot wait for the show. I feel like it's super hyped over hype, but I think it's gonna be the one time where it's gonna actually deliver. Like you said, Kenobi, we expected, like before Kenobi came out, I was
There
telling
was
everybody,
nothing more hype than that. Like,
yeah, I was like, this show is gonna destroy Mando, make Mando look like nothing,
yeah,
right?
because like, how could you not look like what was crazy about that? And when I knew that there was like nothing more hype than that was when they were at Celebration, and Hayden's like, this is where the fun begins. Like, it felt like
Bro,
for a moment, like for a brief moment, that both Lucasfilm PR and the people that were working that show understood that how to actually cater to what the fans were looking for and what they were
yeah,
expecting. Because like, he's just not going to, I mean, I know he loves Star Wars and he's talked about it and stuff, but he's not just going to get up there and do that without like, some discussion beforehand. Like that.
yeah,
That's at least how some of those things go with at least a lot of these big IPs and stuff. And it felt like that would have been like that should have been the W success, like out of all the Disney shows, until,
it
it ended
should
up
have,
being what it was.
man. Ah, man.
I blame, there's so many factors with that too, which is sad.
It really is, like, just the whole, for me, the thing that just irked me the most was just like adding Riva in there and focusing so much on her, because like
Hmm.
the character and the thought of Riva, if you take it out of Kenobi, she survived Order 66, she turned Inquisitor to hunt Jedi. That's kind of dope. Like, throw that in Andor or in a show or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they did it well in Fallen Order. I love Trilla.
That's the
I
exact same
love
story
Trilla.
as Fallen
It, it,
Order.
it is, but we
Literally.
all love Trilla, but like Riva like doesn't get that same respect, and it's because she took airtime away from Hayden and Ewan. Like, we wanted to see them, not Riva doing stuff like that's what killed me the
But
most,
but you
man.
know something too, it wasn't just that, because that's one part of it, which is a big part of why people
Yeah,
don't like that show. I think the other bigger parts of it, for me personally, was the way that it was filmed. I felt like it was very lackluster between the stuff with
yeah,
the stormtrooper helmet, which I know a lot of people have talked about and have made fun of, as far as, people that don't like that. Like, there's some people saying like, oh, like, there's been stormtroopers that got beaten up in the past, or you're just making a big deal of stuff. It's like, no, this looks hokey. This looks whack.
yeah,
Like, this
yeah,
looks like
yeah,
this is like something out of a YouTube video, which should not be coming from Lucasfilm or from Disney in that regard. And like other elements of like how the show was filmed, which felt lazy. And even the stuff with Riva, her story elements, because they're so similar to the second sister, like that,
yeah,
like it just felt lazy. It felt very mediocre. It felt like copy and paste. What worked over there could also work for here and stuff. And
yeah,
because it's Star Wars, people are just going to be on board with it. And I think that's the problem that a lot of fans, a lot more growing numbers of fans have had issues with ever since that show. And even before then, when the Book of Boba Fett came out and all this other stuff happened, it was
yeah,
just a shame, because I felt like even Lucasfilm now just didn't get that lesson. I don't feel like they've learned that hard lesson where it's like people are going to be vocal about the stuff that they dislike, especially if they feel like it could be better in some ways, especially coming from Lucasfilm like that.
yeah. No, for sure. Oh, damn it, man. And like,
It's so salty, right? Like,
yeah, and I got to experience Kenobi a little bit different than most, because I was at Anaheim Celebration
mm,
and they did the red carpet world premiere there, and we got to watch the first two episodes in a giant auditorium
yeah, I,
with
I
the
heard about that.
entire cast. And
Yeah,
like, we watched it, and the first two episodes it was a good
they're not
start,
bad.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
the
then the
show just
second,
gets progressively worse though
yeah,
as it goes
yeah,
on. Like, there's moments like when you see
yeah.
Vader for the first time in there, and it's like, that's Hayden in the suit.
Yeah,
Yes, this is what we
at
want
the
to
end
see.
of the second episode, I still remember the crowd. There was probably at least 5,000 people in there, and when it cuts, it's, Ewan saying Anakin, and then it cuts to Vader in the back of the tank, and the
Yep.
music
Mhm.
changes and it zooms out. The crowd lost it, and as soon as that scene cut, the entire cast walked out on stage. Like,
Yeah.
everybody, we didn't know that they were all there, but they were there watching it with us. So like, I'll never forget that experience. It was crazy, but yeah, it went downhill. The finale, though, that final fight and that conversation was like beautiful, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Like
that's the best part of that
that
show.
yeah, that part, it was so deep. And like I liked seeing Qui-Gon. It brought a
Yeah.
tear to my eye.
I
Like,
get it breaks canon a little bit and it's
yeah,
very fan servicey,
yep,
but
yep.
like those are that's the type of vibe like watching that scene. Like the first time we all, because I watched it with Theory's watch party, and when we all saw it, we were like, oh snap.
Oh,
Homeboy
yeah,
was on the verge of crying, which is
yeah,
funny enough. But like
yeah,
seeing that scene play out and the way that it was like, this is awesome. We get to see Liam again, right, like actually be Qui-Gon again. That's dope.
yes,
Like, and that's cool. But those were like the small diamonds in this entire rough of that series. And I felt like
yeah,
the entire series should have given similar vibes to those types of moments, because that's where I felt like the series works. Because not only was the
yep,
focus on the main characters that we want to see, but it was also playing off the lore of the prequels, leading into what we knew was the original trilogy. But everything else around that felt like it was just, it wasn't enough for those like diamonds to really overshadow a lot of stuff that I had issues with on that series. And it shouldn't have
yeah,
been that way, because this series should have been amazing.
yeah. I know, man. I know. So the last thing I have we're gonna talk about is the whole movie situation. Like,
Yeah,
so
this
the
is a
late
travesty too.
bro. So like the latest like thing is supposedly we're gonna get two in 2026. That the Ray will be in May, Filoni in December, and then either the following May or following December is gonna be the James Mangold
Yeah,
movie,
the
which
Mangold
I
movie, which is
yeah.
the Dawn of the
Dawn of the
Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah. So, what do you think about these three movies and them dropping three in 18-month period potentially?
So there's a lot of layers to this. There's a lot
A
of things,
lot.
a lot of stuff to it, and a lot of it is not good because of a couple things. A lot of it has to do with the fallout of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is a big. That's going to be
Yep.
a big part of this, and I feel like a lot of that scheduling is going to get changed.
Yep.
Very soon. I feel like, but also there's a couple things I have an issue with the way that they're and the timing that they're dropping some of these movies. The Ray movie
Yeah.
should not be the next movie. The next movie, because of the Disney
100%.
Plus series, should be Filoni's movies, like
Yep.
hands down.
Yep.
That is what's working for some, and it's not just me that's saying that. That's
To
literally coming
everybody.
from people like Grace Randolph. Even John Campea has said that. A lot of other people that were really being almost apologists for a lot of the stuff that people have issues with are saying the exact same thing I'm saying. And it's true, because Filoni has had the most successful stuff amongst fans, on top of the most successful stuff that people have watched numbers wise when it comes to
Yep.
Star Wars. And why he's kind of playing second fiddle to all this stuff is beyond me. I think it has to do more with internal company politics more than anything else. When I say internal company politics, I'm not talking about like exact politics. I'm talking about people that are already there at Lucasfilm and hierarchy
Yeah.
stuff is really what I'm talking about. But also, I feel like, why would you go back to that time frame that people have had that felt were so divisive and had such an issue with, within that time frame or that era of Star Wars? Why would you go back to that well again? And then, by the way, not even have it as a numbered movie. It's not part of a trilogy. It's a
Yeah.
one-off, which
Yep.
makes no sense. There's still speculation that even John Boyega, which I would argue is probably one of the better parts of that entire sequel trilogy, is still who was blackballed in some ways.
Yep.
Still probably not even involved with this, which I think they're going to get him involved somehow. I think money's going to talk, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of other issues where I feel like that movie is still up in the air. And that's the one that I feel like with Kathleen Kennedy, through hell or high water, she's going to get that movie out. The hell with the other movies, I feel like in her case, with everything going on. And the James Mangold movie, my only issue with this is that, number one, we have lore in the expanding universe that talks about the Jedi, which is something they should go to, which I don't understand why Disney and this current era of Lucasfilm decides to willingly ignore all that other stuff rather than cherry pick and borrow elements to make their own stuff. You have the blueprint, you have the foundation there. You could make something dope that longtime fans would get on board with. New time fans could have something fresh to start out with without having to read the older stuff. There's things there that they're just not doing that is being done with these films that I feel like is not only a poor business decision, but also a poor creative decision. And with Mangold, especially after Indiana Jones, I feel like that's going to get changed, because this Indiana Jones movie is bombing. It's like straight up. And, I understand he's a great director. He did Logan. That's a great movie.
Amazing.
But do we really want to see another depressing movie based on a franchise that we love? And what could possibly be, because remember, this Dawn of the Jedi movie is supposed to be a biblical epic that talks about the dawn of the Jedi, the first,
Force
utilization of the
user.
Force, which I think
Yeah.
even predates that in some way in the expanded universe. It's just that I don't, based on this guy's track record, especially based on now, forgetting about Logan, but with Dial of Destiny, with all his
Yeah.
stuff, I don't know if that's the right call to go with this. And I don't know if this is the right thing, because that original thing prior to all that, the original idea for that movie was nothing like that at all. Basically with all the stuff that changed up with different directors, which was also related to the Rey movie at some point. There was a lot of weird things that have been going on. Like it's just a mess to me. It's a very confusing mess, and it doesn't have to be confusing, because it feels like there's things are a little bit chaotic over there at Lucasfilm.
Yeah,
And
man.
if one of these movies has to be a W for them, because Star Wars has been out of the theaters for a very long time. It has not worked in theaters clearly, since The Rise of Skywalker came out. Those movies made money, but like they really damaged the brand in such a significant way that people are so indifferent about Star Wars. And we really shouldn't feel like that. Star Wars should be exciting. Star Wars should be appointment theater going experiences. Like that's literally what helped make the blockbuster back in the day, 40 plus years ago. So it shouldn't feel like indifferent the way that we are right now.
Yeah, and it just boggles my mind. The last movie we got, 2019, Rise of Skywalker, and then the first movie potentially in 2026, 7 years later, is this new Rey movie that's changed stories completely 2 or 3 times, supposedly.
By the way, I hate to interrupt, but I also want to add one thing that I almost forgot to add. We've had multiple Star Wars movies get canceled since then. Not even count. By the way, films that were almost guaranteed slam dunks to get made, they got shelved. I'm talking about Rogue Squadron. Yep. I'm talking about that. What was it? There was one more that I'm forgetting right now. I'm blanking out, because there was all the series 2 that got thrown into the mix. Lando, Rangers of the New Republic, oh my God, there was like a bunch of them that were all like canceled and stuff from like Disney Plus and stuff that just did not get made. Like they were announced, they had like logos and everything at Celebration for them, and just dropped. It was like, what the heck is this? Like there's very little faith in stuff happening right now, because look, it's the same pattern that we've been going through for, like you said, 7 years.
It is. And like they just announced 3 movies, and now it seems like the Rey one could be a mess. And that James Mangold movie, I'm calling it. I don't think it's gonna happen. Or
not after Dial of Destiny.
Exactly.
I'm a little bit more shaken about it. Like I was open to it, like when they first announced it.
Me too.
It's cool. But like after seeing Indiana Jones and how Indiana Jones is doing at the box office, no business or no company executive is going to look at that and be like, yeah, this is our guy to go do our movie.
he lost us 200 million. Let's let him do it again. Like, no. So yeah, man, it just sucks. After we waited so long, gave them so much time, and like even at Celebration, like the week before Celebration, I think it was Damon Lindelof was the one that was.
Yeah, that was the guy. That was his name. Oh my God, that was the name I was thinking of before. His movie got canned, which turned into the Lindelof or the Mangold movie.
Well, no, his movie was the Rey movie.
His movie was the Rey. Okay, yeah, you're right, because the old Rey.
Like it was gonna be like a 60, 80-year-old Rey. It was gonna be he had like an actress in mind, and it was gonna be in that lens where Rey is an elder, but the story is gonna be about newer, younger people, which would have been way better, because like it's still connecting the sequels and Rey, which is cool, fine, but it's like a different Rey. Now, I guess KK got rid of him because she wanted to use Daisy. And
exactly. That's a smarter business move, but for the wrong reason though. Because like I get it, it's Daisy really. Like she's Rey, that's gonna bring people to the theater and stuff. But I think that just both the story and the reason why they're making the movie is the wrong reason. I think that's the biggest problem. And fans are seeing right through that. And I get it. There's going to be people that are not part of the bubble of Star Wars discourse on social media that are still going to go see these movies. But I still think like with stuff like Indiana Jones, like the previous Star Wars properties or movies and stuff that have been released, it shows that people are still tuned in enough to know about these things, or at least be conscious enough about why these things are having their issues. And I think their wallets are going to speak to it. They're not going to support it as much as I think Lucasfilm is hoping they will.
Yeah, for sure, man. But man, come Celebration 2025 in Japan, it's gonna be very interesting to see what they announce, confirm, and show us and let us know there, because they'll have to have their shit together by then, because literally everything comes out the next year. So
I hope,
man.
Because right now they need a W. They need any sort of W right now to keep things moving. And I think Filoni's going to be the one that gives him that W, because he's been
If they move
consistent
it
enough.
up.
Even if you don't like stuff from Rebels or anything else that he's done, he's been consistent. Like, he's still
Yeah.
repping the team in some way.
Yep.
But I don't think it's his fault that like the company has kind of like, been a little lackluster in their delivery with a lot of stuff. And that shouldn't be a toxic or a bad thing to say. I think that also, keep in mind, I think that Lucasfilm has really mishandled the way that Star Wars discourse and the way that the company and their projects has been viewed in social media. I think part of it is their fault for kind of contributing to that discourse. But a lot of that could have been steered and could have been handled much differently if they went about being part of that conversation and allowing people to feel whatever they want to feel about whatever it is that they're putting out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that was the last thing that I have. What do you have coming up next on your channel that the people could look forward to?
So there's a lot that I'm doing. I have now my full video review of Final Fantasy 16, which I'm hoping to get done in the next couple of days, because I was actually on vacation for like a week because of July 4th. I went over to Clearwater Beach, just to go chill out and kind of like decompress in the beach and stuff for July 4th, which was nice. It was great. I got to see the fireworks on the beach. But I'm going to be doing that. I just did today, before we started recording, an unboxing impressions for the PC gaming or the PC Engine box art book from Bitmap Books. I did a whole unboxing impressions that's on the channel right now. You can go look at that both on YouTube and on TikTok as well, and on Instagram. But also, I'm going to be playing some other games. I'm looking at the next Star Wars game I'm going to actually do a full video review on once I finish Final Fantasy 16, because I'm trying to get back on the bowl of doing more reviews every single week, playing like older stuff, shorter games that don't require like 40 plus hours to play through. There's a couple I've been looking at. I originally, at one point, it didn't happen because of technical reasons, because of Steam, but I was originally going to do a whole thing about the Star Wars X-Wing and TIE Fighter games. And the problem is that it's difficult to capture those games off of Steam, because those games are so old. They run on like Windows 95, Windows 98 type of stuff, and they always crash. So like those games are like not stable to play on PC. And my PC is really good as far as like playing games like that. So you would think that it shouldn't be a problem to run those games off Steam, but for whatever reason, they don't work as well. But I'm looking for the next games to at least tackle at some point. I've done all the big ones that I could think of. I even did stuff for like Star Wars Arcade on 32X. I did KOTOR 1 and 2. I've done the Battlefronts. I've done, all the big games like Bounty Hunter, Republic Commando. I've done all the big ones you could think of stuff. So it's getting much harder now to pick and choose different games. Like I even did stuff like Clone Wars, the first Clone Wars game that was on PlayStation 2.
Nice.
I did Revenge of the Sith on Game Boy Advance. I did Empire Strikes Back on Atari 2600. I did all the Atari 2600 games in one video, every single, including the canceled Return of the Jedi game that they did. So I did it. I literally almost went through everything. So there's a couple stragglers. Maybe I got to decide on what to choose to play and to do a full video review on. But eventually I'll get to it. There's still other big games coming out this year. Like I'm looking forward to Spider-Man 2. I'm looking forward to, I'm trying to remember what comes out this year. Again, I still have to tackle Tears of the Kingdom when I can. Diablo 4. It's another one that I skipped out over. I didn't get to play. There's a lot of games. Exo Primal's coming out very soon. That's one that I'm hoping I get a code from Capcom so I could play. And
nice.
And the other one I did recently too was the AEW game, AEW Fight Forever. I don't know if you're into wrestling, but it's a wrestling game that plays like the N64 wrestling games, just with AEW. So
nice. Okay, that's cool.
Pretty fun. I did a whole thing on that. So I got my plate full. I'm still going to be doing TikTok videos every single day, multiple videos on games, retro, newer games, game-related topics, Star Wars topics, movie topics, reviewing movies as well. I just did stuff for Mission Impossible Fallout. I got Barbie coming up very soon. I got Oppenheimer coming up soon. What was the other one I did? What was it called? I did, oh my God, there's just been so much.
I've
been tackling it. So, but it's been fun and I've been enjoying it, hoping more people watch it. Hopefully more people just check it out and give it a chance and just have a ball with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, bro. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. It's been dope.
Yep. And that's it for this episode of Sith Talk. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.